Let us pray together. God, Father of mercy and Mother of creation, in whose name Mary and Joseph presented Jesus in the temple, bless and sanctify our new community that will bring together men and women of faith, disciples of our chaste, poor, and obedient Redeemer. Son of God Jesus, when Simeon took you in his arms, he gave thanks for a full and complete life. When Hannah felt your presence, she praised you and looked forward in hope to the redemption of humanity. May Simeon and Hannah be our guides as we live lives of gratitude and hope, thankful for the fullness of long life and filled with hope for the new life that awaits us. Holy Spirit of unity, enrich the charisms that have blessed our congregations, and out of our different traditions and customs, help us to build a new way of life that allows each community to retain its distinct identity, while at the same time being part of a new community that will reveal Christ our life to all whom we welcome to our new home, where you will be the source of all that binds us together. Amen. So, once again, a very warm welcome to all of you who have an interest in the mission that is known as Presentation Manor, our vocation to build a new community out of a diversity of communities. You are all most welcome. There really is one purpose that is more important than any other this morning, and that is to hear questions from you. We are going to present you with some information in the first part of the meeting, but more important than the information that we present to you are the questions that you will have for us. This is a very important opportunity for the Board of Directors to learn from you and to further intensify our efforts to respond to your needs. For that is the primary purpose of Presentation Manor, to bring together a community of communities and to respond to the needs of all of those communities. So let me just tell you very briefly about the people who are involved in giving leadership to Presentation Manor before I introduce you to our new Executive Director, Gord Perot. I've referred before to the Board of Directors of Presentation Manor. Let me introduce them to you once again. You've seen two of them just a moment ago, Father Jack Lynch, Sister Christine Gebel, Sister Pat Brandt of the Loretto Sisters, who is here. Sister Pat, can you stand up just so that we can see you? Thank you very much. Also, not present this morning is Mr. Andrew Barnaky, who is also a member of our board. Mr. Barnaky is the Vice Chairman of Global Equity Markets for Colliers International. He has a distinguished background in corporate real estate development, and he's been an important resource for us on our board as we have navigated the ocean of complexity that is building a project, building a residence of this kind. Also on our board, of course, is Mr. Raymond Lafond, whom you all know well. Please, Raymond, if you could stand for a moment. Let me tell you about Raymond's new position. Until the hiring of Mr. Perot, Raymond Lafond had been the Executive Director of Presentation Manor, as you will recall from the very beginning. The first time I even began to think about anything like Presentation Manor was actually at a presentation given by Raymond Lafond here at Scarborough Missions sometime in 2011. That's 6 years ago. And Raymond has been involved from the very beginning. But Raymond has now, shall I say, transitioned or perhaps evolved from the position of Executive Director to the position of Director of Facility Development. So his specific job at the moment is to oversee the development of the residence in collaboration with our architects, Mr. Santiago Kunzel, who you'll meet in a moment, with PCL, the main general contractor, that is our partner, and to ensure that the building is completed on behalf of the board according to the plans that we have. So that's Mr. Lathon's new position, and he continues to be on the board. I should also tell you very briefly that there is what we refer to as a construction advisory board that is under the chairmanship of Mr. Andrew Barnaby, who's a member of our board. And our construction advisory board is made up of Mr. George Buckles, Mr. Peter Sweeney, and Mr. Terry Will, who are gentlemen with expertise in the area of construction, development, financing, and they're the ones that we call in when we're entering into very complex negotiations, either with PCL, our contractors, or with the National Bank of Canada, our banker, when we need men or women of particular expertise, we call in our construction advisory committee for help. There are a lot of people, a lot of friends of our communities who have come to our aid in an official manner on these committees, but in unofficial manners also. I noticed today Mr. Carlo de Pellegrini of Williams and Partners, a distinguished accountant who has, for instance, helped us on many occasions considering various issues before us. So there are a lot of men and women who have come to our assistance in these last 5 or 6 years to get us where we are today. And that brings me, as I hand off now, to Mr. Perot. It was always the case, Raymond isn't the least bit disappointed that we have a new executive director. In fact, it was very much his intention and our intention that eventually he would move into the retirement that he was supposed to begin about 4 or 5 years ago, which we interrupted. So we always knew that we were going to be searching for a new executive director who would, once we had the residents at least out of the ground, who would be in charge not only of preparing us for that day when men and women move into the residence, but then managing the residence itself. We took that process of finding the right executive director very, very seriously. And we began by retaining a consultant who specialized just in the profession of elder care and retirement residences. And we charged that consultant with going out to find the very best people in the industry, in the elder care profession, men and women who were leading residences for seniors across Ontario. We wanted to find the very best people that we could to consider as our executive director. We went through the normal process of shortlisting, interviewing a number of people. We interviewed, I think, at the end, a number of women, and Mr. Perot, and at the end of that lengthy process, we came to the conclusion that we had found in Mr. Perot our leader. I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. I'll just summarize by saying that I think we would want to recognize Gord as a leader in the elder care profession in Toronto. He's had a very distinguished career in giving leadership to a number of elder care residences in Toronto. And we think that we have found the very best person in the city of Toronto and beyond that we could find to be our new executive director. So I'm going to introduce him now. Please join me in welcoming our new executive director, Mr. Gord Perot.
Thank you very much. That's the nicest introduction I think I've ever experienced. Much appreciated. Well, welcome to Town Hall for presentation Manor. I'm very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. This is an exciting project, and I'm honored to be part of it. Over the next couple of months, you'll be receiving updates and invitations for town halls that are going to be local at your location. I'm going to be sending out a survey, and what that survey is going to say, it's going to ask you to send it back to me on what's important to yourself. It's called a rating. So what I want to do is take that survey, and when I come to your town hall meeting, I'm just going to drill down a little bit, and I'm going to speak to you at your town hall meeting exactly what's important to you. Okay, so the schedule that's coming out for that. I'm available for you if you have any questions. Here, my office is here. Father Jack is providing an office. So if you need to get a hold of me, I'm going to by phone, or I will come and see you and answer any of your questions. Okay? Just before we have any questions and answers, I'm going to turn it over to Santiago. Santiago is our architect. He's going to run us through the construction, and then we'll have questions and answers afterwards. So once again, thank you very much.
Can you see?
Yes.
I'm going to stand up with this microphone because I might be pointing at.
That's not connected.
No.
Santiago? It's not connected.
Okay. It looks pretty fancy. Okay, that's okay. I'm okay. I can go from here. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Great. So what we're going to do today is doing a little bit of a quick overview of the building. So to remind some of you been here perhaps before, or the ones that haven't been here before, of how the building.
You do not report on my here.
Well, that's okay. Technology. I feel like a rock star now. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to show you some of the features of the project, but then I'd like to end with the most exciting part of it, which is showing you some of the features of the construction itself, and some of the views that you're going to get from the various details. So that's it. You see there the shape of the building footprint, and this slide really was to show you that the building is surrounded by gardens. So we shaped the building in such a way that we created these very distinct courtyards that have different characteristics. The one closer to more Latin is more contemplative courtyard, Sanctified. The one in the center that is right across from the dining hall is an active courtyard. It's got outdoor dining opportunities. There's an outdoor exercise area as well. Remember, this is the other one. Okay. Sorry. No. Okay. Is it better now? Yeah. Whenever you don't hear, just raise the hand. I know I can yell really bad, but I don't want to. So again, as I was saying, the building is surrounded by a lot of gardens. The one on the right, Warren Avenue, is a more contemplative garden. The one on the center, right across from the dining hall, is a more active garden with outdoor dining opportunities. There is also a place for outdoor exercise. And then there's the one on the left, which is a terrace over the parking garage. There is a walkway all around the property. So for those that would like to take a stroll, you can do that, get on the sidewalks and do as many loops as you can. There's also a very nice drop-off plaza near the main entrance and lots of seating opportunities along the way. So on a small site with a large building, we think we have accomplished a lot of outdoor opportunities for the residents. This one is a view of the main entrance of the first fact. You can see the drop of canopy, so when you're training, people will be coming in and out of the cars protected, lots of light. You will notice there is a lot of glazing along the main drop-off area as well, so there's opportunities for people to be sitting inside, looking at the comments and goings of the facility. It's very welcoming, very well lit, and very transparent at the end. So you can see terraces. So it's the welcoming and the main entrance of these facilities are very, very important places for the residents to feel connected, for the community to participate on the life of this building. It's a very large building with a lot of residents. Now we're going to go floor by floor, describing the main amenities of the building. Basically, the main areas where all the residents can get together and have activities and congregate. We start from the lower level. I mean, this site is quite interesting because it has a lower level at the back and it has a higher level at the front. So it's basically a one-story difference between the two. The lower level is the one where we have the chapel, the dining hall, and the spa, beauty salon, all those areas, and fronting into that central corridor, the active corridor of the facility. The next slide shows this area a little bit in greater detail. So you see on the left, the dining hall, on the right, the chapel, and in the center, we have a multi-purpose room that allows both the dining hall and the chapel to grow. So let's say you have a large congregation, there's more than 100 people you need to hold on the chapel. You can open up to the multi-purpose room and enlarge that. We have a large dinner, say at Christmas time, where you need more capacity in the dining, the multi-purpose room can open to that. On this wing of the lower level, we have the exercise room, we have a pool, we have the lockers and change rooms, we have a spa area, and we have a nail salon and a theater as well for movies. Those are kind of the main activities in the lower level. Now we're going one level up. This is the level that is related to the street, the main entrance to the facility. The places that are shaded with the various stones represent the units. Those are the individual units for the residents. The areas in white represent common areas, the areas that are open to everyone that lives in the building. We have two main components in this building. One is the assisted living component on this side, which is for those residents that are a little bit more frail, a little bit more assisted. And then the independent living, which is the majority of the building for those that are more independent. On the main level, we have the main entrance, adjacent to the drop-off zone. We have a fireplace lounge, a small bar area, looks down into the dining hall that was on the lower level. Below, we have craft and activity rooms. We have what we call a private dining room. Let's say, for instance, you want to host your family, there's a birthday celebration or so on, you want to bring 10 or 15 people, that place can hold a private, small gathering. And there's that seating area I was talking to you about that is in relationship to the drop-off zone. There's also a scooter room for those that have motorized scooters that you need to move outside the building and into the community. When you come back, you just park it in there and you walk into the facility. Now we are coming up onto the level 2. Level 2, 3, and 4 are almost identical in terms of their layout. This, as you can see, because of the color, mainly suites, but strategically located at the center of these wings to make it very democratic, so everybody walks about the same distance to it. This is a prayer room, a lounge, and an outdoor, a large outdoor terrace. So those of you that feel that want to get some fresh air, you don't feel necessarily that you want to go down to the main level, you can have that large outdoor space adjacent to a lounge where you can enjoy the outdoors. And then there is also an area where you can do laundry with some of the other residents in the building. This complement of amenities is the same on the other side. This area here is, of course, the assisted living, which has a companion suite and someone that's keeping an eye on the floor. It's got a common area for lounge and dining, where those residents of assisted living go to dine. They don't go to the main dining hall. They have their own dining room on each floor. Level 3, as you can see, is identical to level 2. Nothing has really changed. It's the same for level 4. So this is important because there are no many things you need to understand about the building. It's a very large building. So all the floors where the residents are very similar, and then the other 2 floors that are more different are the ones that hold the large gathering and activity spaces. Now I'm going to run very quickly through the various suite layouts that we have in the building. We have studio suites, which are the smaller ones, about 370 square feet. And we have 2 types. Mainly, the main difference is that the one on the assisted living doesn't have what we call the tunable, which the independent living will have, which is an area where you can have a small fridge, a sink, a microwave, and a tea kettle. Not necessarily a place where you will make food because you're dining on the main hall, but it's a place for snacks and quick things. But on the assisted living, we don't have that. There is a very comfortable large washroom with a very large rolling shower, and of course, toilet and sink. Even though the unit is not very large, we have the opportunity for 2 closets for storage within the unit. This one is the 1-bedroom suite. So you have the tea nook over by the entrance, a place for a table and chairs, and sort of a eating room area with a very large sliding door where you can open and get some fresh air. Lots of natural light. This is going to be very, all of these units are going to be very bright. Lots of natural light opportunity. Bedroom adjacent to the dining room. 2 large closets and a very large washroom that has both a low tub and a rolling shower as well. This is actually something that is going to be trend-setting in Toronto. We do work for many of the leading developers of these type of facilities, and they don't do have this kind of flexibility. That we think is going to be very interesting. This one is, there are some units that have 1 bedroom plus a den near the entrance and a small terrace as well. We have some units of this type that are located near the main entrance to our office. So, we have a question?
Yeah, or
Thank you. Then we have the 2-bedroom suites, similar layout to the 1-bedroom, except that it's got an additional bedroom and a very large storage area as well. All the other things are very similar to the 1-bedroom. This slide demonstrates how some of these suites can be converted to community rooms. Basically, you remove one of the walls, and then all of a sudden the bedroom disappears, and it's a whole space that's integrated. You can see on the 1-bedroom suite there's a large room for a large circular table, for instance, a seating area, the tea nook remains there, the washroom is the same. And then on the 2-bedroom suite could be converted for a larger community room as well, with perhaps 2 different activity zones. So this is a very easy conversion of the residential suites into community rooms. And then depending on how the life of the building goes over the years, maybe there's less need for community rooms, they can be converted convert it back into units very easily. This one is just basically the one-bedroom suite showing in a little bit more detail. Some of the components I just went through, so I don't think we need to stop too long on this one. Now, a little bit more of an explanation of the key common areas. We just went through very quickly where each element is located in the building. Now, we're going to go and look at each of these individually, show you a little bit more detail on those areas. Starting with the main dining hall, you can see one set of elevators over here. People will be coming down here or from the other set of elevators over there. There's a buffet area, and there's a seating area, which different type of seating configurations, and a fireplace. This one shows in a little bit more detail with some of the furnishings that we envision on this space. And you can see we have different type of seating configurations. And so people like to see, two on a table, maybe tables of 4, tables of 6. This sort of bed types seating to make the dining experience a little bit more varied, depending on what is the mood this day. Instead of everyone has to be sitting at a 4-chair table, there is opportunities to reconfigure the room to see how the community evolves in itself. So we wanted to provide flexibility because we can't be as arrogant as understanding and predicting how exactly this community will evolve. But you can see here that there is an opportunity to do different type of configurations. We also have a space at the entrance to the dining room hall, which could be used to temporarily park walkers, for instance. So they are not into a dining hall. There's that opportunity there as well. The chapel, which is something I forgot to mention on the garden slide. The chapel is adjacent to an outdoor garden that's experienced from within the space. You can see one set of the elevators in here, so all the people from the west side of the building will come down here. The other set of the elevators was over here by the dining hall. They come through this corridor, they come into the chapel. There is a large space before you enter the chapel for people who like to congregate there. So we didn't want to make it so immediate that you're in a corridor and then suddenly you go and into the chapel. So there's a little bit more ceremonial entrance to the chapel, a little bit more flexibility, more room. Then the chairs could be arranged in this way. We would leave an open area at the front, perhaps for wheelchairs, so there's flexibility that way. And then, of course, is the opportunity to expand into the multi-purpose room should it be necessary. And then here, windows with sun panels to control a little bit the glare. There's also a trellis on the outside that controls the glare sunlight. So we are very, very aware of that situation, but allows you to see the gardens behind as well. So you are still connected to the outdoors, but the main focus is the ceremony. Well, this unfortunately is not very clear, but if you were to look at the screen, it shows the space of the chapel, which starts with a contrast space at the entrance, and then as you walk in, it opens up into a double height space with a 20-story window on the top, and lets natural light come in, shine on the ceiling, and wash the space. So we think, because of the orientation, because of the windows that we're providing, that the space is going to have a lot of natural light, but indirect natural light. So it won't be harsh, you just will feel that the sun is coming in. And then there are the screens at the front, behind the water, and then the gardens on the windows behind. There is a special program that the building has to Commons Neighbors, and Common Neighbors is adjacent to the assisted living entrance. And we're showing here some of the furniture configuration for how you can use that space. So it's meant to be very flexible. You can have group seatings, you can have individual seatings, classroom seating, all different variations of activities that can happen in this room because of the furniture that we are going to provide. There's a spa area that's accessible to all the residents, with a small treatment area, a dedicated washroom, and a therapeutic tub. The assisted living spa area has a larger tub, and these are residents that have more mobility issues, need more assistance, need more space. It's a larger tub. There's a theater, as I mentioned, the movies. And there is a detail of the seating area by the main hall. So as you can see, there is a groupings of tables and sofas, where you can be sitting and enjoying the comings and goings of the facility. See people being picked up, see people being brought. And this is a private dining room that I mentioned where you can host your family or a larger gathering for a special occasion. You can book that room and do it there. These are the lounges that we have on every floor. And the lounges will have a counter space, opportunity for doing some cooking, seating areas, and then the balcony, the outdoor balconies as well, every floor. And this is the assisted living. So the assisted living resident rarely goes out of this zone, so they have their own dining, lounges, and outdoor spaces as well. These are some images of what that kitchen could look like. Trying to make it look more home-like as possible, even though there's some heavy duty machines to wash and so on. It still looks pretty homey and welcoming. And the location of the community rooms on the floor. So again, the community rooms showing some of the furniture that could be used in those rooms. And then, finally, some of the shots from the construction. So, it's still a long way from gardens, but at least you can see now the building taking shape. This view is from the southeast corner, looking back at the parking garage, and up there is one of the three courtyards that I mentioned. And you can see all the units lining the courtyard. The building at this shop is as its highest. You can see all the floors already there. That was something that was quite interesting in the process with the community, because for them, they were very anxious. The existing building on the side was very small, and then here we come with Presentation Manor, a very large building. But you were incredible neighbors in that we shaped your building in such a way to maintain the privacy and move it as far away as possible from their backyard. They were really, really pleased by Presentation Manor's willingness to respect their privacy, because you could have put your building right in their backyards. That wouldn't be nice. And in the end, you end up winning too, because of the configuration of the building, you got three distinct courtyards rather than just one. And now I'm very happy to see that come to fruition and the vision being realized. This is an image of your dining hall. So you can see it. You're standing right at the end, looking up into the bar area, the fireplace lounge. It's a double high space. Incredible amount of openness to the garden. So when you are inside this dining hall, you have a direct connection to the outdoor space through these very large openings. And then you can see and experience the main entrance of the facility as well. Similarly, people coming in will hear noise from the dining hall conversation. So the place will feel really alive, because of all these activities being concentrated around the neighborhoods. This is a chapel space. Of course, it still doesn't have the curving ceiling, but you can experience the size, double high space of the chapel. Of course, as I mentioned, it still needs to have the ceiling and all the finishes, but you can see the relationship between the space and the garden beyond. There's going to be the screens in front, there's lots of things to come, or at least you get an idea of how that space is. It's pretty large, and we feel it's going to be incredible. There are no buildings of this type that have a chapel like this one, trust me. It's usually some little room in the corner somewhere. This is going to be absolutely incredible. This is a stair that connects the main entrance to the facility to the dining hall below. So as you can see, people will come in, immediately will see this, and they will understand that there is more community space below. It's not like a dining hall, this is a lower level, this is forgotten and completely disconnected from this. You will see it, and you will see how to get to it if you choose to use the stairs to go to the elevators. And you see to the outside. One of the incredible things about this place is that even though it's so large and has so many residents, when you walk in, you're immediately looking outside. So you experience the gardens in the back the minute you walk into this facility. This one is a view from the assisted living, one of the assisted living rooms at low level, looking down to Warden Avenue. You can see we kept the existing trees, as we kept the majority of the mature trees that separates the site with the neighbors. So there's a very, very good, comfortable buffer between the building and the street, which will be landscaped. This is a view of one of the units looking out onto that elevated garden over the parking lot. So those units will have individual patios, and then will be the communal space of the terrace. This one will be perhaps on level 3, looking out onto Fairfax. And as you can see, we also maintain some of the existing trees here. We get as many of the original trees as we can possibly do on this project, which we think was a great idea. This one will be on level 4, and you can see downtown the Sicilian Tower over there. Those are the shape of the sky. So you can get a sense of the views you could get from the upper level on this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Santiago. Does anybody have any questions for Santiago?
If you have a question, we have a microphone, and the only caution is when you're speaking into the mic, if you hold it down there, in this mic you have to put it up to your mouth. Okay, so if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring the mic around to you.
Just for Santiago.
Yes, I have 3 questions. Will there be central heating and air conditioning?
Good question, and yes, there will be, and it will be individually controlled at each of the units. So there will be a thermostat that you can control.
How was the name Presentation Manor decided?
Well,
The short answer to that is after a great deal of discussion. We spent a lot of time trying to find a sacred name that would unite all of our communities. And we that the Feast of the Presentation, which has been a very important feast day for religious women and men for many years now, would be not only a scriptural inspiration, but it would be a feast and a biblical image which would unite all of our communities without favoring any of them or neglecting any of them. We should also say that we feel that the figures of Simeon and Anna are guides for us, as you heard in the gospel proclaimed this morning. Simeon, who looks to a life well led and gives thanks to God for the life that has brought him to hold Jesus in his arms. And Anna, who proclaims the salvation of humanity to the world, she looks to the future. So Simeon looks to the past, Anna looks to the future, man and woman complementing one another. These are this is the foundation, the scriptural foundation for the name that we chose.
My question is around the bedrooms. What direction do they face? Some north, south, east? So it's a choice about direction.
That's correct. So their bedrooms are basically facing every single orientation. Yes. East, west, north.
Santiago, perhaps I missed it, but did you mention the prayer rooms?
I did, briefly. So yes, good question. They are prayer rooms adjacent to each of the lounges. Again, they are very democratically located, so everyone has sort of the same walking distance to get to. On every floor, on every room, yes.
I want to know how far this place is to the subway.
Right.
That's very important for quite a number of us.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 2.5 blocks from the subway. If you know, it's probably about, I don't know if you know Providence Center. Yeah. It's perhaps not too much further than if you were living in Providence Center to get to the subway, than it will be from going to Presentation Manor to the subway. A little bit much, but not too far.
Santiago, it might be helpful to say there's a bus stop right outside the building, which takes you one stop to the Warden subway station.
Yes, across from the Team Hortons, there is a bus stop.
The walk isn't very long, but it is uphill, downhill. So,
Providence Center is about the same, uphill, downhill too. Sorry, there's more.
This really isn't a question. Would it be possible for the people who are asking, or for you, to repeat the questions? Because often we don't hear the questions, but we hear the answers.
Okay, absolutely. Do you want to go through some of the questions that were asked before? No, in the future.
At one point, there was talk that there would be some kind of transportation van or something that would leave right from Presentation Manor. People could get on that. Is that still in the picture?
The question is if there is transportation provided that leads from Presentation Manor. And I think, Raymond, that is still the case.
Santiago, those are Raymond, those are questions for Gord.
Yep.
Yeah.
At this point, could you give us any idea of the cost of each unit?
Right now, what we're doing is we're working on a pricing model, so we should have the information on that in the next couple of months. We'll definitely have that finalized, but that's something that's in the works right now, as is the care model.
I'm wondering at what stage there would be mock makeup suites so we can view it before moving in. Is that a possibility?
It is part of the construction process, yes.
Okay.
The question was if there will be mock-up model suites for the residents to see. And yeah, the answer is yes, but it's too early in the process.
At one time, we had given a pamphlet with some information and the square footage, et cetera, et cetera. Does that still apply? Or has that changed?
So we're updating the pamphlets. The question was if we're going to have some sales material for pamphlets, and just we'll step further. There's going to be artist renderings too that we're currently working with Santiago's company, trying to finalize what we're going to go with. Well, as I mentioned before, when I come to visit you at your locations, at your town halls, I'll have these renderings with me, so you can see an artist rendering exactly what the suite's going to look like, what outside's going to look like. It'd be a little bit clearer than seeing that site plan.
Has it changed from what we usually had?
No, no. The question was, has there been any change in how it has? The only thing that's changed, there was a mock-up pamphlets that were given out initially. They were dark brown and various colors. But now we have a logo, and we've decided on what the colors are going to be. So that's the change you'll see.
Is there an office or area at the entrance to determine who goes in the regular section and who goes to the assisted living section?
There is a reception near the main entrance with a complement of offices as well. I don't know if that's where the determination of where you go as a resident is going to be made, but definitely there's going to be a place where you can ask questions as you come into the room.
As soon as you walk into there's a reception area. That's our director of first impressions. You'll see that person, whoever it is that we hire. That person then will guide whoever's visiting over to assisted living or to the independent floors.
Yeah, another thing for clarification is we designed the building to provide enough flexibility so you could enter the assisted living directly from the street if you know where you were going, or connected internally from the independent living section if you wouldn't know where you're going and you needed to ask that person the question. So there's that flexibility built in.
My question has to do with green energy. What about solar panels for electricity, and what about roof garden?
The question was solar panels or roof gardens, and this, Raymond will know because you were involved at the time. There was a very extensive negotiation with the municipality in regards to what the bylaw requires. And after very careful analysis, we decided to go with the green roof option. So basically, every area of the building, the roof that is not accessible to residents, will have green roof on it. The areas that are accessible to residents will have gardens on it.
Thank you for your presentation. It's often been mentioned that domestic animals are a great benefit to older people. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Has any policy been established, or what is the thinking of some of the members of the board of directors for housing domestic animals in our new residents?
I knew this question was going to come up. We are in the process right now of developing a pet policy, and I know that I'm a pet owner myself, and I know that they're very, very important parts of your family. It will be communicated to you at a later date exactly what that policy is going to be. So there has to be some stipulations that surround that. Obviously, there's a lot of care that's involved. When you live in a community quite like this, you have to look after the pet and so forth. So that'll be communicated to you at a later date. We're working on it.
What are the qualifications for living in the assisted living area?
So So in order to, for us to determine who will be living in assisted area or assisted living, I'll just back up a little bit. There's a tour that's occurring on the 14th of this week. Father Georges is going on the tour with Sister Pat and some others. And we're touring an assisted living, another assisted living facility, just to finalize what that care is going to look like. Because they arranged a bunch of different things. Usually what would determine that would be a physician's report, and then we would do an assessment to see, and then work that care plan around that. So you would be part of that care plan.
Yeah, Gordon, one thing I like to mention, because the building is so large and has so many amenities, and the amount of time is so limited. But one thing that I did not mention is on the near the assisted living portion of the building, there is a small complement of office for a physician to come and visit the building. So, whenever the building is in operation and the physician is engaged, he or she will come to this place and then, you can book appointments and so on. There's a good facility for a physician on the building.
If I can just add to that too, in my experience with retirement homes and assisted living, it's very, very tough to find a doctor. And just the fact that Presentation Manor is going to have a doctor, that's amazing. So that's half the battle right there as far as care goes.
Is there an approximate timeline for occupancy?
So I didn't see where the question was coming from.
Yeah.
Right now, and again, PCL, the construction company, is updating that on a monthly basis. We are targeting the summer of 2018 as what is called a substantial completion of the building, meaning that the building is substantially completed. They might still be walking around fixing minor things and so on, but the majority of the elements of the building to make it habitable are already in place. Building of this size is complex, and it might require some updating of those timelines as the construction evolves. We have had a terrible wet months in the early going. It was really hard for them, but they worked really hard. So, and those schedules are updated on a monthly basis.
I'm attending construction meetings every Tuesday morning, right on the site. Randy is also on the call from Winnipeg. The tentative move-in date right now is projected, and apparently the rain has affected a whole bunch of us looking at the plans. They're saying it's summer 2018, July or August.
Is there a balcony in the chapel?
The question was if it was a balcony in the chapel. There's no balcony on the upper level area of the chapel. It's just one level. But it has the ability to grow into the multi-purpose room that should be required for more capacity.
I'm not sure if part of that question is coming from that oftentimes balcony is where people who need help to get to the chapel go. But there will be, we're talking about having the masses that are said in the chapel televised, and that is going to the assisted living unit.
Sister, before you put that away, the microphone, there's another committee that I forgot to mention in my introduction. Now, hold on, Sister Christine, to the microphone, please. Thanks. Sister Christine chairs the chapel committee, and I'd just like her to tell you who the members of that committee are. They work with the board of directors to design and plan the chapel. Sister Christine.
So the members of the chapel committee who've been working very hard are Father Jack Lynch of Scarborough and Sister Suzanne Marshall from Our Lady's Missionary. And they're working on different aspects and details of the chapel.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Don't let it go
over your head,
Nice going, John.
You know, you talked about having cats and dogs there, or animals, and I'm not against them, but I am very, very allergic to them. So they're gonna have to have some, I have good friends who have animals, but they keep them in their own place and all that kind of thing. So I just wanna point that out, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's got those allergies.
You're not actually with the allergies with the animals, with the pets, the point is well taken, and that's something that's being discussed.
This is just a matter of interest, but where I live in the seniors place, you cannot have a dog, but you can have a cat, as long as you keep it in your room all the time.
That's helpful, thank you. Thank you, that's helpful to know.
That's discrimination.
My question is about the imposition room. Is there going to be a room that would be open to having a medical person, like a nurse or a person during 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 for minor aches and pains, and or doing just regular blood pressure and weights and things like that?
It's actually, that is the plan, and that's what those rooms are used for. So if it was at the time that you were in need, and the doctor was there, or there's registered staff 24/7, so there's always somebody there that's able to help.
First of all, I would like to thank George and Pat and Christine and Jack and Andrew for all the work that they've done on our behalf in the sexual act of venture. This is in addition to their regular ministry. So thank you to each and one of you and to you as a group. Santiago, one of the questions I have is in terms of numbers. You talked about the dining room, the chapel, and the theater. What is the maximum occupancy of each of those areas at any one time? And are there washrooms provided accessible besides those facilities?
Yes, good question. Off the top of my head, I believe the dining hall can comfortably seat about 150 persons at one time. The chapel, between 100 people on chairs and about another 15 or 20 on wheelchairs. And again, yes, the second part of the question is about the washrooms. There are washrooms lining that corridor on the opposite side of the dining hall. So anyone attending both chapel or dining hall can have access to those facilities. And again, want to remind you of the flexibility of the multi-purpose room that will have folding doors that open and close to enlarge the capacity of either the chapel or the dining hall.
And the theater?
The theater is a much smaller space. Just off the top of my head, perhaps 20, 25, not over that. 20 or 25, but this is just going by memory.
You also mentioned, Santiago, the word bar. What exactly does that mean?
We provided the space. How you operationalize it is up to you. But it's basically a space that will have a bar with a place for liquor and other things that support equipment. It's adjacent to a window where you can see the gardens in the back, and it's in behind the fireplace lounge. Also looks down to the dining hall. It's got some coffee-style tables as well to sit, and some soft seatings provided as well in that area.
I'm sure the board of directors are going to spend some time with that because as religious, that would be a concern for us in terms of values, poverty, simplicity, and also many in our communities have struggled with addiction problems, and also what is it that we want to give witness to. So I'm sure it's a topic of conversation.
That's very interesting. The one thing I'd like to highlighted some previous presentations is that the facility is both for religious and for lay people, right? So there's going to be, I'm actually personally incredibly excited to see this building occupied and see how it's working, because I think it's going to be an example. But again, it's this community that comes together. So there's something for everyone.
Just one last question. We're also aware Raymond has been instrumental in helping religious come together in Saskatoon, in Winnipeg, in Montreal, with similar sites. Is there any relationship between these sites, and has our own board of directors had the opportunity to go to these sites and see what worked, where there were red flags, what we have learned from these other sites, and especially right here, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Toronto, with their site, what were the problems they incurred, what were sort of things that, I know that they're, oh, I wish we would have done that they've learned from their own experience. And has there been an opportunity for that, or have we just been sort of really pushed by time?
No, actually, Peter, it's a very good question. I'll just, right off the top of my head, I remember visiting Chewacquanner Drive, the magnificent residence of the Sisters of St. Joseph, and the director who gave us the tour, when we sat down to talk with him, the question I had to him was, well, it's a beautiful residence. What we need to know now are what are the mistakes that you made. That's what was important to us. To answer your question more comprehensively, indeed, members of the board and members of the parent corporation of Presentation Manor, which is called Canadian Religious Stewardship, which is the organization that founded and gave life to Presentation Manor. So members of the Presentation Manor board and of our founding board, Canadian Religious Stewardship, have visited all of the residences that Peter described. Trinity Manor in Saskatoon, Villa Ono, and the Daypan residence in Winnipeg, and also in Montreal. What is the name of the residence? The Square Angus in Montreal, which I think is about 400 and something units, where priests of the Archdiocese of Montreal and members of religious communities in Montreal live. So we visited all of those sites, and we have sought the inspiration, but also the experience and expertise of members of all of these communities. It's good for us who live in Toronto to recall from time to time that we don't invent everything in Canada. And in fact, in some sense, we're coming late to this. So these communities in Winnipeg, Saskatoon, and Montreal are already thriving. In fact, there's another residence that's being built just as we speak, just getting off the ground in Regina, Saskatchewan. So we have visited all of them and have learned greatly from them.
Just a couple of examples that come to mind, as I mentioned before, which I picked up from the tour that Raymond gave me of the Pan and Villa Ono in Winnipeg, is this thing about the shower and tub integrated into one unit. This is not done in Ontario. I think you're going to be setting some trends in here. So I think that's quite interesting. That's one of the elements that the buffet style serving. That's something that's not done typically. So there are many innovations that are coming to the Ontario market thanks to this expertise of these other facilities that have been developed elsewhere in Canada.
Gordon Rowley, can you comment on the security and access to the facility, and not only to get into the building, but to the individual rooms?
So to get into the building, we've budgeted for a security person, so that's 24 hours a day. In addition to that, you're gonna have, the doors will likely be locked. This is something operational has to be worked out. Typically, they're locked around 9 o'clock, maybe a little bit later in the summertime. And this is at the front entrance. As far as getting into the room, maybe you can answer this for me, Santiago. I'm guessing it's a key with a master key.
We're looking into options with the consultant. There is electrical and low voltage consultant that is looking into the security envelope of the building itself. The access there will solve it for securing the door to the suites.
And last question, I'm assuming all these suites will be unfurnished, right? The congregation is responsible for bringing their own furniture.
Yeah, we've spoken about that as well. I know Ray and I had a conversation about that. So I think the idea is to bring your furniture, and sort of sure we can help out if there was something that you needed.
The assisted living area, or wing, do they have their own chapel and dining room, or do they have to go to the main building?
Excellent question. The question was if the assisted living wing there is chapel and dining facilities. On each of the floors of the assisted living wing, there is a prayer room that's provided, and there is dining facilities that are provided. And as Sister Christine mentioned, Mass from the main chapel could be brought in via the TVs onto each of the rooms of the assisted.
Are any of the operations of this facility being paid by the government or being paid by religious communities?
It would be paid by religious communities. We're going to be having the government come in. So CCAC, Community Care Access Center, provide hours for you for free of charge if you require some additional care.
Will there be access for computers, such, and somebody who knows something about it, just said no?
Yeah, so we're going to have Wi-Fi throughout the building, so you'll be able to access computers. I'm sure there will be a hub, maybe in one of the activity rooms where there could be a computer that people could use, or if you have your own Wi-Fi, is the way to go. And in the past, if we didn't have an IT person there, I was able to assist, as was my management team.
I'm wondering, would there be extra storage space anywhere in the building?
The question is there extra space storage in the building? And the answer is yes. There is a locker room area adjacent to the underground parking garage, which is accessed at the lower level. So there is an elevator path that takes you to that level, and there's going to be a lot of lockers.
It was a huge space. Father Jack and Sister Pat and Rainy and I went on a tour yesterday, and we were shocked just how big this storage space is.
Some lay people are interested in going to Providence. When will they find out? Yes, to the presentation is not needed.
When will lay people find out when they can come to Presentation Manor? Yeah, not the religious.
Okay. So we're switching now into our marketing phase, and that's what I was mentioning about the renderings. So the town halls that I'm doing for each one of your congregations, I'm planning on doing that for the communities for lay people after religious. So once we get a commitment on how many people are coming in from religious, then I'll be able to see what's left over, for lack of better words, for the community. There's a lot of people that are interested in calls. I know Sister Christine was receiving a lot of calls too, so there's a lot of interest. And this is without signage and no advertising whatsoever. Right now it's just word of mouth with people asking what's going on, what's being built here at this construction site.
I was just wondering, I didn't hear the answer when we talked about internet and phones and so on. Internet, phone, and TV. If we are presently with a provider, can that be brought to the residents, to our unit? Or will there be one main provider for the presentation manner?
Really, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it's one main provider. So I'm not sure who you're using with right now. My past experience, if you were with that provider, you could switch it over to the same number.
My question is about the dining room. You mentioned the dining room. Two-point question. How will people get their food, and are there designated sitting spots like other retirement homes?
The food is going to be delivered via buffet style. So the kitchen is adjacent to the buffet area. That's where you will get the food. As far as designated seating is a question perhaps or can elaborate.
So designated seating in the dining room, I haven't really seen it. Usually what happens is people will sit with their friends and they'll sit at the tables and that becomes their seat. So that's something that should be discussed. I think as everybody moves in and we all become more familiar with all of our neighbors, we'll have resident councils, lots and lots and lots of communication. In my experience, that's the best thing to do. So if that works, if you designate seating, that's something that can be discussed. And you can go a step further than that. We could have food for thought meetings. What that would entail is having our director of food service would attend a meeting. And if everyone can come to that and be an open town hall like this to discuss nothing but food. And that could be something that's brought up at that point too, with the dining room.
I won't let them forget you.
Supposing a person isn't going to move in when it's ready, but maybe in 2 years, would there be any difficulty?
That would all depend on occupancy. I'd like to say no, there isn't going to be any moving. We have to put on a waiting list, but it's hard to say.
It's always a possibility.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about how the dining room is going to work, especially for us who have lived in religious communities. We're very used to buffet style. I've got to say, when you say 150 people in the dining room, it's quite overwhelming. And so how were you going to manage numbers, congestion, and sittings?
That's one of the things that you have to sit down with the director of food service and manage that. And it needs to be managed directly because other than the elevators, that's one of the main areas that people, especially with walkers and if you're coming for a buffet, you really need to sit down and that needs to be looked at quite closely because there's different food needs as well. Oh, John?
I'll only add very briefly that the kitchen consultants have been instructed to make sure that you can serve yourself on both sides of the survey to really double the speed in terms of serving yourself, number one. And number two is this works quite well in two other facilities in Winnipeg and also the one in Saskatoon. The one in Saskatoon is banquet style, and I'm hearing a lot more complaints about that. So so the survey style seems to be much more appreciated by people.
My understanding from our board discussions, and I'm just throwing it out, was that we would have 2 sittings. And so I think that's maybe something I want to put out there in terms of the numbers in the building, 229. What would be the time frame for meals, and how would you be expecting them all to sit at 1 or 2 sittings? How would that work?
Again, that's an operational issue, and for a building this size, there usually is, and almost always is, 2 sittings. So you're having breakfast 7 o'clock in the morning, your next sitting is at 8:30. Again, whatever works out for the community. Supper time is typically your largest meal, and that needs to be managed accordingly as well. And if you have people that sucked in, at the end of the day, this is just my opinion, you're retired, I work for you, so the staff works for yourselves as well. Nobody's going to say when you're late, you can't have supper.
Where I'm living, there's quite a few people, but we have 2 settings, and there's certain ones go to the first setting and certain ones to the second. So you have, you have your name down from one or the other, but you can't just hop in, from the first to the second. You just let them know. But the regular people go into the regular setting.
That's great.
Everyone's interested in eating.
John?
This is my last question, and it's a very burning question. It's about ongoing learning from each other, as well as just inviting different guests, different speakers in. So it's around a space for a library, and it ties in with a computer center as well. But it's not just the last stop for most of us. I just see it an ongoing living area.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would fall under our director of activities, for lack of better words, it's our director of fun.
Yeah.
So they would arrange these things, and that's the person that would, again, they might have another committee that should very well be on that committee and help out. They're usually in charge of the library, the computer area, teaching people how to Skype, for instance, has always been a largely attended course. Things along those lines, all the areas.
My question is, in the chapel hall, we have stained glass windows?
Yes, the answer is yes. In the chapel, against the exterior windows, the one that look onto the gardens, are going to be 3 wood screens with stained glass inserts in them.
John, at the back,
Joe
Joe?
Badali up there.
Okay.
I'm waiting in line, so I'm back at the dining room if you don't mind. I live in the seniors' residence now, and the biggest thing I've heard by way of constant complaining and no solution is service at the table. I'd like to bring up the point that you don't stop your ordinary life of doing things other than coming and meeting for meals when you go into one of these homes. You still have a life outside. It's not all about lunch. And it can be fairly aggravating when you go for lunch at 12 o'clock in a very reputable place and you're still not served at 10 to 1.
That's a management issue, and we haven't hired these people yet. I can assure you that this is something that comes up quite frequently. There's that's something that would be well.
But I speak in favor, highly in favor, having had the experience of both, of self-service. I don't think there's any, Peter mentioned earlier, keep in mind that we do have 3 vows and so on. The amount of food that is wasted with table service is unbelievable. And the number of complaints daily from people who say, I don't like that vegetable, why are we always getting it? If I can serve myself, I take what I can and want to eat, nothing more. I think there's more to it than just having an efficient dining room service. There are a lot of other angles. To me, the ideal would be have both.
Yes.
There's so much space in what you talked about. Why not have both and satisfy a number of things? Could I ask a second question that I fell over from our last town hall? The caretakers. Where I am, we're about the half the number that this is going to be. We have 3 caretakers. If there's a storm and all our TVs go crazy, the caretakers are there and they fix them.
If something small and ordinary happens with the computer, they fix it. If somebody has a little fall, I don't mean a big fall. We don't send for an ambulance just to get the person back on his or her feet. The caretaker's there, and if there's nothing serious that's happened, that the person has just gone down and can't get up, the caretaker. It's a big issue. It's taken for granted. When we go in, there'll be somebody to help us put up the pictures. The slightest little thing that happens, no, of course you don't call for a handyman from outside. The caretaker in the house is part of the family.
That's right. That's part of client service, and I can promise you that will continue. But that's how I operate my team, that I've had in the past. Everybody's all about that. You need to help put pictures up. And this is quite common with the TVs, or the internet goes down, there's light bulbs that need to be changed. That's done.
Thank you. I'm wondering about meal plans. Is there a possibility of having a plan 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day instead of having the 3 meals a day go down to the dining room?
We've discussed that loosely. I don't have an answer for you just yet. I'll make a note. What I'll do is I'll communicate as information becomes more available, and our policies, things along these lines, I'll communicate it with everybody.
I won't have to walk today.
I may not express myself very well, but I think this question is for the board of directors and for all of us. We're going to be a number of communities living together, each retaining our own distinct character, but creating a new community together. So will there be opportunities for us to come together and talk about what our life in common would be like, or what we would like it to be like?
If I may, I think, Sister Dan, that's you've gone to the heart of the collaborative ministry that we're about here, which is how do a number of communities and individuals who are not members of the community come together to form a new community and to be able to learn from one another and to dialogue about what is the way of life that we're going to build that will serve all of us in our needs. And so I think that's the kind of ministry dimension of this project that, to me, is the most exciting and but also challenging. And so I think from the very beginning, even before we arrive, we have to set to establishing, to facilitating, and creating the spaces that are going to be possible for people to come together into a conversation about what the way of life is going to be, and the rhythm of the day, and some of these very particular issues around dining, but also other issues. That's going to have to take place not from policy coming from above down, but from conversations and listening and dialogue about what will best serve all of our needs. That's got to come to the top. So the challenge for us on the board is to create those spaces, those opportunities. When we get to the residence itself, and I think this is clear from Gord's comments and Santiago's comments also, the chapel has the opportunity for us, because of the multi-purpose room that adjoins it, to open up, to create a space where we will all be able to gather together, all members of the Presentation Manor community. And so there will be that opportunity on a regular basis, but also there have to be ways for us to be in conversation with one another about how we are going to live our life, so that we're mindful of different traditions, different customs, different needs, and somehow to bring and build a new community out of that. So then thank you for drawing attention to that ministry that will be ours in the months ahead. And
particularly when Presentation Manor opens.
Any other questions?
We've heard that we're going to be surveyed about what our major needs would be if we were to be there. What interests us, what's really important to us. And so what are the plans around that survey? Are we going to receive it soon? And what will be the way, how will that feedback be used?
So the survey, usually what I put on the survey is the top 5 things. And I'm hearing about security, I'm hearing about food. Food and security are always number 1 and number 2. So for your location, if security and food was number 1 and number 2, then when I came to your town hall, that's what we're going to be speaking about mostly, because that's what interests you. So that's how that survey works. Once it's filled in, I would envision that if I could, it would come back to the Superior General, in which case would be forwarded over to myself so I could be well prepared for when I came to your location.
I just wanted to mention, as religious as well, but we've been very reluctant to call this a retirement home, because religious really don't retire. So just part of the dream is becoming neighbors is on the premises. Across the street, there is a group, and I forget the name of it, but they work with the government, employee people, challenged people, and there's a school, so that even within walking distance, there's lots of ministry opportunities. And I remember when I visited one of the residences in Winnipeg, I walked into the dining room and the first table had a couple of petitions to sign. So part of this dream of being together is we're not going to retire, we're going to be active, aware, and involved as we can. And Tim, what was very much.
We're going to take one more question.
Okay, back to the cat. Okay, back to the cat. We had good results with our cat, but you have to be the boss. Not everybody in the house, but you have to be the boss of that cat. You have to train that cat to which rooms that she can go into and which rooms she can't go into. That's a big thing if you're really in I was able to do pretty good. The only one room I couldn't keep her out was a little chapel. She was and I would be looking for her, and she's in there. She thinks she's hiding from me, and her tail is hanging down. So I said, Snuggles, what are you doing in here? Out she drove as fast as she could to get back to her room. And then the thing that got her into a lot of trouble, one of the sisters took her down to her room, a little ways, and when she was down there for a while, she had a hairball, and she took off to get back to her room. And she met the Superior along the way. And that was the end of her.
Well, so maybe to Gord's list of food and security, we're going to add pets as a number. And Snuggles also. I think that the board has heard very, very clearly these concerns. We understand we have a lot of work to do in policy development, and you can see that this is a work in progress very clearly. I'm hoping that we've heard most of the questions and concerns for now, but there will be others. I'd like to thank Santiago Kunzel, our architect, and I'd like to thank our new executive director, Gord Perot. As you heard, he will be in touch with you about the survey process
that will allow us to hear more of your needs and concerns. And then, as he mentioned also, that he will be coming to hold town halls at individual communities that will be coordinated with your community leaders. If that doesn't work out for some people, then we want to make sure that we will provide for you means to keep in contact with us and to present your questions for. Keep an eye on our website, www.presentationmanor.com. Presentation Manor, all one word. We'll have bulletins from time to time that will provide more information and also contact information for you. So we hope to see you in the future, and we hope to continue our ministry of listening to you as we prepare for the ministry of ministering to one another, of serving one another. Before I conclude, I'd like to ask Father Jack, our host, to say a few words about what comes next.
What comes next is the buffet downstairs. We invite you for lunch, we invite you for coffee, but it's directly below us, okay? There is a washroom just inside that door. There's a washroom on this floor. On the lower level, there are two sets of washrooms for men and women on the lower level. The dining room, to get downstairs, you can go through that door, there's an elevator, or out through here, through the elevator down to the lower level. We welcome you downstairs.